They're just doing it for attention. A phrase that we use a lot when we're talking about behaviour in children and young people. I want you to kind of journey with me today as we change that from attention-seeking behaviour to connection-seeking behaviour. We have to remember the heart of all of behaviour is communication. A child is communicating a need in that moment. So when we see forms of behaviour that we would have said old school attention-seeking behaviour, it's a child saying, I need to connect with you. Now this can be done in a really positive way, and children naturally do this. Positively seek your connection. So for example, a child is like, Dad, watch me do a cartwheel. And they do this very interesting movement. We maybe wouldn't say it was a cartwheel. And you're like, wow, well done. Or they're like, Granny, listen to this song I just made up. And off they go into this performance. And what's happening there is you are connecting with them in a positive way. They're understanding what positive connection feels like. But when a child hasn't maybe received a lot of positive connection for various reasons, or they're not getting enough that they need, a child's brain quickly learns that a really good way to get an adult's connection is through negative behaviours. So for example, that could be something like a child is saying, I hate you, you're the worst, or any behaviour like hitting, swearing, kicking, biting. They understand that those behaviours immediately connect an adult into that situation. They pull you in and you're connected with that child and young person, but in a negative way. Because often what happens is when we have a behaviour, like say back to the I hate you, you're the worst example, then we start to see an adult perhaps respond with, well, you're lucky I love you because with your behaviours, nobody really would. And you're giving the negative feedback. So that child quickly learns, okay, I get that connection and I get that negative connection, but ultimately I'm getting what my behaviour needs, which is the connection. So if we flip that slightly, what we're then doing is connecting still, but in a positive way. So in that same example, what would you do instead? When you're then connecting, remember that's the behaviour that's being communicated. So what you would do is being like, that's okay, you're allowed to feel that way, so I'm still connecting. And say something like, my job as your parent or your carer is to keep you really, really safe, so I'm gonna be here with you. And that is what is vital when we're looking at that behaviour, that we are still connecting, because here's the catch. The old school approach, to say we're going with the attention-seeking phrase, the old school approach to that is, and was, ignore and they'll stop. And honestly, I have no idea who came up with that. I have no idea where they got their evidence from, but it literally doesn't work. And you will know even more than I do that this does not work. If you ignore a child's behaviour, they will escalate the behaviour, because what are they trying to get? Your connection. And you're just not giving it to them. So they'll up the ante even more. And then eventually they get the negative connection because you're like, stop it. And you're getting quite aggravated in that moment. And that's why those gentle moments of connection are much more positive when we're looking at that type of behaviour. So if we're not ignoring the behaviour, we're connecting. And we've given a few examples of what we're doing with that. But more than that, think connect and replace the behaviour. So say the behaviour is throwing, a child gets in and they're dysregulated and they're throwing things. Instead of just being like, stop it, or whatever the response is, connect with them and be like, I can see you're really angry right now, that's okay. It's not okay to throw things. Here's some beanbags to throw, let's throw them really hard at the wall together. So you're replacing and redirecting their energy and their behaviour in that moment. So connect and then redirect. So connect and replace, or connect and redirect is key when we're looking at this behaviour as well. Alongside that, if a child is seeking a lot of negative connection, remember that's what they're communicating. They're literally saying to you, I need more connection time. So if they're showing you a lot of negative connection behaviours, we have to replace it with positive connection behaviours. So in a school setting, that would maybe, or like a youth club or something, that would maybe look like one-on-one interrupted time with a key adult. First thing in the morning when they come in, playing Uno together, getting some tea and toast, whatever that is, one-on-one positive connection time, so they don't feel that they have to get your connection and negative behaviour later on. At home, I know this can be really tricky, especially if there are other children in the home, but in any way that you can carve out one-on-one, uninterrupted time together. That means your phone isn't sitting there, you're not on your phone, you're not like, oh, we'll watch a movie together, but you're sat on your phone. It's one-on-one connection, that you're building those neuronal pathways to say, I am present with you, and it's positive. And that might be like building Lego together or just like reading bedtime stories. But that's building up that positive connection rather than them then seeking the negative connection. Will this approach work automatically? No. Is this a magic trick that I'm giving you? Also, no, I'm afraid. The behaviour probably will continue in a negative way for a while until you replace it and repeat it. So if you're repeating the positive connections, the child and young person will eventually learn that that is where they're getting the connection, not in the negative behaviours. We have to remember that from like a neuroscience point of view, what is happening is you're trying to rewire parts of your child's brain. So they've wired in a certain way, and we're kind of coming in and rewiring. Research shows that to form new neuronal pathways, which is what we're trying to do with, you know, the positive connection. And if a child's saying something, you're like, that's okay, but I'm here to keep you safe. That's a new thing you're teaching their brain. You're rewiring neuronal connection. And research shows us that to make that pathway really, really strong in our brains, you have to do something at least 500 times. That may sound like a lot, but trust me, on a day-to-day, it starts to build up, and that's for it to become really, really natural. And I'm telling you that so you don't give up, because if you try this for a week and the behaviour keeps happening, you're like, it doesn't work for my kid. But it will if you keep going. Repeating an experience is key for the way that children's brains grow and develop. So keep going. Positive connection seeking, not attention seeking. It's connection seeking behaviour, positive connection seeking, and then redirect that behaviour as well. Repeat it, keep going, and you'll start to see the change.